Hello and welcome to your combat briefing about blacklist units and their combat abilities, my fellow gamers. They are the units available to play with during the Crossfire Legion's technical test, and more units will be added later. My name is Peter and I will show you these units in combat, what they are best at, which active and passive abilities they have, and other useful details. I know you commented about not seeing enough of Blacklist faction in my first preview video on this game, link up here and below. So that is why I will showcase them first. Next video will be about the units belonging to the global risk faction and direct gameplay from matches against AI and other players. Let's start with one of the most powerful blacklist units, the Crocodile.
New Crocodile reports ready for work.
This massive 8-wheeler drives around with a huge laser cannon on its back, complete with a power supply unit. I am not going to go into the exact number of health and damage or resource cost, because this is subject to change in future versions of the game. Let's just say it currently has the highest unit HP, damage and cost, while requiring main base upgrade level 3 and mechanized facility at level 2. The extra ability which you can research and unlock for the Crocodile is a passive damage over time weapon buff which adds the scorch effect to its high-powered laser. This unit can only fire at grounded targets, meaning those that are always on the ground, or air units which have been forced to the ground by something like the Cheetah's harpoon ability, which I will talk about in a moment. A few important things about the Crocodile to remember is that it is a slow and huge vehicle. Can't enter or detect stealth, its laser weapon has a brief firing delay and moderate to long range. Its scorch weapon ability is great against high HP targets like tanks or buildings. Now, if it could just transform into Optimus Prime with a massive laser rifle, that would be mental. But I guess it's too much to ask, so let's roll out! Next up, we have the fast-moving and lightweight Cheetah I mentioned, which can work as a scout, although it cannot detect stealth units or enter stealth mode. Its top-mounted rotating cannon offers 6 times less firepower than the Croc, and the Cheetah has less than half of its HP. It can only fire at grounded targets, but its ability, Impale, researched at the mechanized facility, makes it possible to ground air units for a limited amount of time and immobilize them. This lets everyone shoot them up.
Rolling out.
While the Impale ability seems like a great idea, it's also very micro-intensive, so you do have to target each individual enemy air unit, which can be spammed. I personally didn't even try to do this in a pitched battle, so that is why I have no footage of it. Beyond scouting, it can be used to move in quickly and harass enemy building and collection worker units at the outposts as they collect resources from mines, or do the same thing to the slow-moving infantry with its anti-personnel cannon. And speaking of infantry, there are 2 units currently available in the Blacklist faction, Bulldog and Lion.
I'm mobile. Upping ROS. Go for Lion.
Both are slow, can fire at land and air targets, and have abilities which can be researched and activated, after which there is a cooldown. Bulldog is the cheaper and lighter unit with less HP, armed with a rapid-fire machine gun, which fires at short range and deals low damage. Its only advantage is the camouflage ability unlocked at the barracks. Bulldog can remain camouflaged until it moves or attacks, and after doing either, it gains a small damage boost for a short time. This makes it a cheap and very useful sentry at base expansion spots on the map or approaches to your own base. Without this ability, the Bulldog would become mostly obsolete once you start making air and mechanized units, but with it, you can lay ambushes, keep an eye on future resources and base expansions, and even slip into enemy bases if you use the commander's teleportation ability. The Lion, on the other hand, can be kept in your army a lot longer. It has the equivalent HP of the Cheetah, but 4 times its firepower, because of the automatic grenade launcher it carries. This damage can be further boosted for a short time after unlocking the Courage ability, which when activated, increases its fire rate and so the damage output. Its range is also longer than Bulldog's, but this all requires level 2 barracks and boat resources, while Bulldogs can be trained by spending only 1 resource. A mass of Lions with some Bulldogs up front as meat shields can do a lot of damage to units and structures. Their low speed is their main disadvantage, but this is why you can use the teleportation ability of Commander Phoenix to move them where they are needed in the blink of an eye. I will show you this and more commander abilities in my next videos. And if you have been enjoying this one, I hope you will use that like button, comment which unit you think is most useful, and subscribe to see the next video about global risk units. Before showing you the 2 air units, I want to turn the spotlight on the support unit, which has the awesome main weapon and 3 very cool abilities. This is the Chameleon support truck, and it's also the only unit capable of detecting stealth units. Its passive ability is the Sonic Wave because its sound-based main weapon system reduces weapon damage of enemies it hits, while its active abilities are Liquefaction and EMP Burst. The first one pulverizes a small section of terrain and slows down all units moving through it, perfect for cutting off enemy escape routes or covering your own retreat. The second one is pretty much self-explanatory. The Chameleon fires a ball of energy which expands on impact and zaps enemies, stopping them in their tracks. This is the only unit that has an actual power charge, which is spent every time Liquefaction ability is used and charged back up during its cooldown. The EMP Burst ability does not spend that charge, at least not in this version of the game. Its sonic weapon has high damage close to the top units, but low fire rate, and it's most effective on infantry and worker units and less so against buildings. To build and upgrade the Chameleon, you need the HQ and the mechanized facility both at level 2. Now it's time to talk about the flying units. Just like with every other unit type but the support, there are 2 units, one cheaper and one more powerful. The first air unit is the Dragonfly, and yes, all the blacklist units are named after animals, real or mythical. This one is a light bomber using the same technique World War I bomber crews used, throwing ordnance by hand, because the unit is basically a pilot attached to 2 huge fan blades and an engine. If you ask me where he keeps his ammo and the bombs, my only guess is, well, his underpants. All jokes aside, the Dragonfly can't detect or be stealthy, but what it can do is attack both land and air targets and be upgraded with the improved Igniter ability, which increases its damage to structures. It also has about medium HP, slightly higher than a Cheetah, but its damage is on par with the Lion infantry unit or the Chameleon support unit. Another thing about it is that it is slower than the actual heavy attack helicopter of the Blacklist faction, which is named, you guessed it, the Falcon. Besides being fast, this heli is also very powerful, with a high rate of fire for its high explosive missiles, which are additionally upgraded with the multi-rocket passive ability. It provides more rockets per each volley forever. Best of all, these rockets can be fired on both grounded and air targets with devastating damage. The Falcon unit can't go stealth or help you locate stealth units, and it's expensive to build. It requires a level 2 airfield and level 2 HQ. It's effective on pretty much everything, including buildings, but try to avoid the anti-air missile batteries of the Global Risk faction. And on the subject of Global Risk, I will post another video just like this one on their units really soon. The battles you saw during this video were against the AI opponents, because that made it simpler for me to test out all the units and pose them really nice like this, while I had the AI bottled up in his base. If you have any questions about these units and their abilities, leave them in the comments below. I will do my best to bring you some player versus player matches in the future videos on Crossfire Legion. You will find them as cards on the screen and links in the description. Thank you all for watching and happy gaming!